العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا أبي القاسم محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Brothers and sisters, topic of today's conversation is Iman, our belief in obligation, in our duties, whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala obliges upon us. عقيدتنا الموضوع درسنا اليوم هو عقيدتنا في التكليف. Before starting on today's topic, as usual, we'll summarize on what we did talk about on our previous lesson. Our previous lesson was our belief in Adala. We said that Allah is fair and just. We said that Allah is Adil. We said that justice is, what is justice? We said that justice is opposite of oppression. So if you want to understand the justice, we look at oppression, and that's opposition of that. Antonym of oppression. We said that justice is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says is justice. Not what we think may be justice. Yeah? Not what we think may be fair. We said that Allah is the wisest, Allah al-Hakim. We said He knows what is the best for us, what is good, what is bad for us. We said that best is what Allah says is best, not what we may or may not think is the best for us in certain situation, yeah? We said that good and bad is what Allah says is good and bad, not what we may or may not judge as good and bad. We also said that Allah always does what is fair. Allah never does what is unfair. He always does what is fair. And what is the best for us? We said that Allah is never unfair, and He never stops short of choosing the best option. Yeah? That's with regards to what we talked about previously. Today, we will explain obligation. We'll say what's obligation upon people in general. Some of people are ignorant. And ignorant people are of two kinds: responsible for their ignorance and non-responsible for their ignorance. So we will talk about obligation upon responsible ignorant as well as upon non-responsible ignorant. We are going to say that obligation is all positive and it's in the best interest of people. And we are going to say that obligation is mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Obligation is characteristic of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and hence obligation will never stop to exist. So that's what we are going to talk about today. Okay, let's start. Obligation, first obligation in general, taklif. We believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not oblige people unless they are suitably positioned. Unless you are in a position to be obliged, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to put any obligation upon you. Unless you are in a position to hold, Allah is not going to give you anything to hold, basically. We also believe that Allah does not oblige us above our abilities and capabilities. لا يكلف نفسه إلا وسعها. That's what we believe in. Huh? Whether these abilities be physical, financial, intellectual. Any examples? Yes, مثلا Hajj. Hajj is some worship that has physical part, has financial part, has intellectual part. You should be able to remember. You should be in position to remember certain things. Should be financially in position to do it, and should be physically in good health to do it. Unless you are in a position, Allah is not going to ask you to do Hajj. That's basically it. Yeah? But why? Why is that? Why is not obliging somebody beyond his capabilities? Because we say obligation of incapable is unjust. لماذا قلنا الله لا يكلف نفسه إلا وسعها؟ ليش؟ لأن إذا كلف خارج وسعها هذا ظلم، والله عادل ما يسوي ظلم، ولذلك ما يكلف نفسه إلا وسعها. This, when we say that he is not going to oblige us beyond our abilities, this topic includes obligation of non-responsible, ignorant person. Yeah? يعني التكليف الجاهل غير مقصر. إذا جاهل غير مقصر الله سبحانه وتعالى ما يكلف شيء. As any, for instance, نحن عشنا في دول الاتحادية قليل ولم نعرف شيء من الإسلام إلا أشياء قليلة، ولم نعرف عبادات حتى بسيطة، ولم يعرفه أحد عنها. إدعاءاتنا بالذي في هذا الوقت لم يعرف، وإذا ما عرف أحد ولم يكن عنده ولم يوجد رسالة واحدة ولا في مجتهد ولا في واحد معلم ولا في واحد ملا يعني في هذا البلد، هذا صار هذا غير مقصر. يعني شلون كيف؟ Example would be people in Soviet Union. I grew up in Soviet Union myself, and I was 20 years old, and I had no idea other than a few things in Islam. We didn't know, and nobody did. Nobody, effectively. So what do we say? We say he would not held responsible somebody who doesn't know and he has no ways of learning something. What about obligation upon responsible ignorant? هذا حال يختلف إذا جئنا إلى الجاهل مقصر. غير مقصر وفي مقصر. إذا جئنا إلى الجاهل مقصر هذا حاله يختلف. It is different when it comes to a responsible ignorant, we say, because every person is responsible to learn Sharia law to an extent that is relevant to him, her, or to her position. لأن كلنا علينا التكليف، كلنا مكلفين للتعليم الشرعية بحسب وضعيتنا، بحسب كيف يعني حسب نفسنا. Let us take an example of businessman, somebody who buys and sells. Okay, I work for an institution. I don't buy and sell, so I don't really need to learn Sharia law about the business and all the details of that. But if somebody deals in business, he does have to learn that. Or traveling. I now work in Carlo, and I travel every day 100 kilometers to Carlo to work. So it is my obligation to learn what about my salah in Carlo. It is qasr or not qasr. So I have to go open the book and find this out. This is my obligation. And hence I will be responsible. Allah will help me responsible. But if you don't work in Carlo, or if your work is next to your home and you are not traveling anybody, so you are not obliged to learn this particular message. Or doctors, for instance. We have so many doctors. There are ethical questions in Islam that doctors will have to learn because due to their work, because they work as a doctor. Hence, Allah will hold the person responsible despite his ignorance. ولذلك هذا التكليف على كل واحد، ولذلك الله يكلف هذا الشخص مع جهالة من الأحكام الشرعية. ليش؟ لأنه هو عليه تكليف بتعليمه على المسائل الشرعية الذي يناسب وضعه، بحسب وضعه، بحسب وظيفته، بحسب شغله، مهنته وهكذا. But why obligation? The question, why obligation? Is there a reason for it? Why oblige people to do something? يعني ليش يعني التكليف يعني؟ هل لها حكمة للتكليف؟ يعني مش بعيد إذا تشوف هذا many people in the world they think that Allah is not, many Christians out there they think they are here just to enjoy their life, you know, that Allah is not asking to do them anything. They don't have to do anything for Allah. They are here just to enjoy their life. Many people think that. هناك الناس كثير من الذي يفكرون من الذي حما جايين يعيشون حياتهم. يعني سؤالنا هنا ليش تكليف؟ يعني هل في حكمة؟ هل هو من واجب؟ ليش الله جاب بهذا؟ هل الله يريد يظلمنا؟ يعني ما نريد بكم يسرا يقول يريد بكم يسرا، يعني الله يريد بنا عسرا، يعني يريد أن يضغط علينا. يعني في سؤال. Natural question, logically, one may think, and why? We say that obligation is all positive and it's in our best interest. نقول بالذي هذا التكليف هو من مصالحنا، من أحسن مصالحنا، ولذلك الله يكلفنا بهذا التكليف. كيف؟ خلينا نشوف هذا. We believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always and only oblige people with what is in their best interest. Allah يكلفنا بالذي هو أحسن وفي أحسن مصالحنا. يعني هذا عقيدتنا. ليش? Again, why? To guide us towards happiness in dunya and akhirah. كيف؟ For example, khums. Or for example, salah. Or for example, siyam. This is in our best interest. We don't know that, and we wouldn't know that. And we wouldn't fast. Why should I stop eating during the day and then eat all night? It's not something that I could figure out, or medicine could tell me, but Allah knows our best interest and He says, okay, go and fast. That is in your best interest. Allah prevents people from what is bad, counterproductive, and punishable, here and thereafter. For instance, drinking, gambling. So Allah said, don't drink, don't gamble. Why? Because this is in our best interest. Look, as society goes on, Irish society, since I have been in this country, last 12 years, amount of alcohol they consume has reduced dramatically. They used to drink and drive 10, 12 years ago, and they say a couple of pints is okay. Not anymore. Many of them don't drink anymore. They just came. In the last 50 years, medicine has changed, and they came to, no, hold a minute, this is very, very bad for you, yeah? But we haven't been drinking for the last 1,400 years. Why? Because Allah stopped us from drinking. Arabs used to drink, but Allah stopped them from drinking. Why? Because it's in their best interest, in dunya and akhirah, here and thereafter. You will be healthier here, and there you will be in better place. Allah obliged even those who will not obey, and even knowingly that they will not obey. حتى الذين سوف لا يأخذون بحكم هذا حكم الله، هو الله يكلفهم حد. مثلا النسيان واجب عليه، مع العلم هو ما يعرف الشرب، ما يصلي، بس صلاة واجب عليه، بس وقوف الشرب واجب عليه. ليش? Again, question. Why? What's the logic in that? What's the logic putting obligation upon somebody who is not going to perform and who will never perform? And مع العلم, there is a in Islamic society there are some other opinions, some opinions that say no, it's not wajib like Christians say that, but Ahlul Bayt school of a different opinion. We think it is wajib. Why? Why is that? Why Allah obliged us as well as those who are not going to obey? Because we say obligation is mercy. لأن نقول تكليف هو رحمة من الله سبحانه وتعالى. Obligation is a mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And humans are often ignorant of most of their interests and benefits. ناس في أكثر الأحوال جاهلين ما يعرفون مصالحهم. ولذلك الله سبحانه وتعالى يكلفهم بمصالحهم لأنهم ما يعرفون. مثلا riba. Usually in Europe used to be haram some 500 years ago. And no Christian would ever touch the money if there was interest involved. They used to call it in English, there used to be a word for that which was called usury. It was a very bad word, and no Christian would ever do that. Because of that, Europe developed a community of Jews that would deal with interest. And from time to time they would attack those Jews and strip them of their assets. Because they would say, well, these assets are haram anyway. They made them from usury, right? That's the history of Europe. Gradually, Europe has changed that. Said, no, hold on a minute, financial world cannot live without the interest, okay? They even changed the name. Suddenly, it's not usury, because you see, usury sounds very, very bad, huh? But interest sounds so innocent, huh? Interest, huh? It's just interest, you know. There's a little interest in that. So they changed the name, introduced it, and if you ask somebody 3 years ago, they would say interest is a great thing. But now they are reviewing that. In financial world, they are reviewing that. After financial crisis, they are saying, now hold a minute, maybe it's not such a great thing. Maybe we should tight control on that. Yeah? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always comes forward and says, look, listen, this is bad for you. Business is good. Usually it's bad. Tijara, okay. But riba, mush. Because he knows what we don't. Also humans are ignorant of Allah's ways and of end results of things, both here and thereafter. We do something and we are not in a position to see what is the short-term, medium-term, long-term benefit or otherwise. Allah knows that. For instance, homes again. If I have made 100 euro this year and you tell me to give you 20, why? Why should I give you that? My immediate thinking is, the minute I give you 20, I'm left with 80 only, so I'm worse off. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explained it to us. He says the giving homes is the same as the trimming your plant. You trim it, it gives more. كمثل شجرة العنب. كثير من الناس عندهم شجرة العنب. Back home, many people have wine gardens. And for summer, if you don't cut and don't sacrifice it this year, next year you will have a very, very bad crop. The same about homes, but we are not in a position to judge and to understand. After a while, people do understand, in fairness. In many societies, people have introduced this 20% tax thing when they take it. But this is only one part of it, yeah? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala imposes it on people because He knows what is better for them here and there. We say obligation is a mercy and obligation is continuous mercy. تكليف هو رحمة من الله تعالى ورحمة دائمية. We say Allah is intrinsically merciful. Allah هو رحيم في ذاته. Mercy is one of Allah's characteristics. Rahmatullah هو من صفات الله سبحانه وتعالى. This is a combined and complementary characteristic of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. هو صفاته ذاتية وثبوتية. ثبوتية وذاتية. These characteristics are the same of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. هو هذا الصفات هو نفس ذاته سبحانه وتعالى. وهذه الصفات رحمته هو نفس ذاته. These characteristics are constant and never stop to exist or project or continue. هذه صفات الله تعالى هو تكليف وهو رحمة من الله. هذا صفات الله تعالى وهو دائم ولا ينفع. Hence, Allah's obligation is a mercy and is continuous upon people no matter what. وهناك نتيجة شنو؟ هو تكليف علينا تكليف الله سبحانه وتعالى علينا هو رحمة من الله سبحانه وتعالى رحمة دائمية ولا ينفع. That's basically about the today's. In conclusion, just to summarize, main point, what we are going to take out of this session today. We say that obligation upon people in general, both responsible and non-responsible, ignorant. تكليف هو على الناس بعد كلهم مهما يكون دينهم وهذا ما دام هو مكلف عليه تكليف على جاهل وفي جاهل مقصر وغير مقصر. Obligation is all positive and in the best interest of people. هو تكليف هو من مصالح الناس. Obligation is a mercy, and as it is characteristic of Allah, will never stop, and as it is a characteristic of Allah, it will never stop to exist. Yeah. تكليف هو رحمة، ولأن هذا صفات الله سبحانه وتعالى هو دائمي ولا ينفع. And that's all. Questions? في سؤال؟